Ansel Adams was a renowned landscape photographer and conservationist. He's considered by many to be the father of modern photography. He pioneered the editing of photographs during development. One landscape he never photographed was that of the fantasy worlds of Dungeons and Dragons. Until today, we used artificial intelligence to redesign Dungeons and Dragons monsters through the lens of Ansel Adams. Stick around and see how it turned out. So here's how this works. At the bottom of the screen, I'll share the prompt I put into the Stable Diffusion AI. This is exactly what I told the AI to draw, and in some cases I colorized the images, made the faces less wonky, or cleaned up random objects that appear in the image using other image editing AI. If I use Photoshop, I'll say so, otherwise everything you're looking at here is just a result of AI algorithms. So let me walk you through the process I went through. The main point of using Ansel Adams and Dungeons & Dragons together was to get some of that photorealism he was so well known for, and that balance of light and shadow. He does have a distinct style, and I wanted to see those monsters with that style, but because he does so much landscape photography, the main thing the AI wants to do is generate landscapes. So it took me a little while to figure out how to get it to make other things, and the magic word was golem. Putting in the word golem, even with other monsters combined, let's say like werewolf golem, for example, I could get it to actually produce some really striking monster images. But here's some of the landscapes that I got first, and they're nice. They're fun fantasy locations, some of them. If they're something a DM could use, I set it aside. I think they're worth keeping. They look great. Now, the first thing I started to get were what I like to call my puffy stony boys. These are golem-like creatures. They're kind of, well, puffy and stony, and they kind of run the gamut of creepy and cute, and they don't look like any kind of specific D&D monster, but they are certainly monstrous and interesting, so I gave you kind of the cream of that batch. Here they are. The next thing I want to share with you are golems that came out looking like actual golems from Dungeons and Dragons. Again, everything that the Ansel Adams photography prompt in with comes out with a sort of a weight and a photorealism and very interesting looking, even when it's something fantastic. So you get these eerie pictures of monsters. They seem like true sightings. It has a very different energy from your typical fantasy art, your typical illustration of a Dungeons & Dragons monster. It's about as far removed as you can get, and I think they're really worth looking at. After the golems, some of the things that came out, now these are just using text prompts. I do have some image-to-image prompts coming up, just like in the Giger one I did, but with the text-only prompts using golem, I also got some very interesting undead, some intentionally, some unintentionally. They all have a good creepy look. After that, I went and made some image-to-image Ansel Adams pictures. Now, to do that, you provide Stable Diffusion with a starter image. I always like to use images of monsters from the monster manual. I clean them up a little before I put them in if they're, holding too many objects or if there's shadow sort of painted in behind them. I don't want to confuse the AI, but aside from that, they go in essentially pristine. I put in Ansel Adams photography. Sometimes that produces something interesting, and sometimes I have to steer it a little ways towards the type of monster that it already is. I have a lot of success with Ansel Adams photography and Golem, Ansel Adams photography and Demon, Ansel Adams photography and Zombie, just depending on what the starter monster is. But the effects are great. Of course, there is a slider on Stable Diffusion, which goes from 1% to 0% to 100%, or 1% to 100%. I always do 50 through 70, and I'll put the percentages down there. It's essentially how much of the image is going to be altered, what percentage of the image will be moved towards whatever the text prompt you give it is. I find that after 70, it just becomes sort of a picture of a house or something with Ansel Adams. It just becomes a landscape photograph. and anything under 50 just sort of smears the original image. It's just not, doesn't give the AI enough room to work. I usually find that 50 is kind of the ground floor. I've had a little luck dipping under 50, but once you get too low, it just becomes too faithful and it's not interesting. And let's finish up with some text-only prompt images. I produced a lot of really interesting beasts. If it looked like something from D&D, I put the picture of the official artwork next to it. If you like these images and would like to see more of them, we've got them up on our Facebook page and our Instagram. So many ways you can support this channel. Details for that are in the description below, as always. Regardless, please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps us keep the lights on here at Miniature Mashup. If you've enjoyed this video, why not watch another? We've also done this with H.R. Giger. We've got more coming up. Or watch one of my hysterical Dungeons & Dragons horror story cartoons. Thanks for watching.